Welcome to the third week of lesson 3. When you are revising previous lesson, generally in previous section you have learned that the three organelles that are mainly found in plant cell, or the organelles that are only found in plant cell. The first one is cell wall. As you remember, cell wall is a semi-rigid structure which is made up of the carbohydrate so-called cellulose, and the cell wall is also the non-living part of the cell which have support and strength function to the cell. And then later we discussed about the plastid of chloroplast. Plastids are organelles of plant cell containing three main organelles: chloroplast, chromoplast, and the leucoplast. Those are the three components of plastid. Chloroplast is the green pigment chlorophyll which is used for photosynthesis process. Chromoplast is the color part of plastid which gives color for fruit and the petal. And the leucoplast is a colorless part of plastid that is used to store starch. And finally we discussed in previous lesson about a vacuole. Vacuole is the space in the cytoplasm which is filled with cell sap and which is used to store solvent, solutes, a liquid, mineral ions, dissolved substance, and the wastes. This vacuole is used to keep the plant cell rigid and as a support. And the vacuoles that are found in plant cell is large, and it's mainly situated at the central part of the plant cell rather than the animal cell. Those are the main topics what have been discussed so far in the second lesson of third week. But in today's lesson we are going to discuss about the new topic, cell specialization, or specialized cells of human. There are four main basically known specialized cells or differentiated cells. The first one is epithelial cell. In this lesson we are going to discuss deeply about epithelial cell. The learning objectives: at the end of the section you are expected to explain the difference between specialized and unspecialized cells and identify the main features of different kinds of epithelial cells. Students, now look at, we are going to see specializations or differentiations of cells in humans. Unicellular organisms such as amoeba, eggulena, Marmasian, and so on consists of only single cell. All chemical reactions and the life process are carried by single cell. So there is no specializations of cells in unicellular organisms, but in multicellular organisms such as human beings have many specialized cells which perform their own particular function. Human zygotic cell is a single cell which divides to form a mass of undifferentiated cell known as embryonic stem cells. Each embryonic cell carries all of the genetic information of the individual. As the embryo divides, the cells become differentiated or specialized to carry out particular functions. Example: red blood cell, nerve cell, epithelial cell, reproductive or gametic cells, etc. Differentiation takes place as some of the genetic material or genes in the nucleus of the cell is switched on and others are switched off. Human embryonic stem cells are important to grow new adult tissues to replace diseased tissue and treat illnesses. Group of specialized cells, as they differentiate, form a tissue. For example, pancreas is an organ which is composed of two types of tissues. It specializes to make different chemical products known as enzymes and hormones. These tissues are made up of two types of specialized cells which produce hormones and enzymes. The two types of tissues stand differently. Cells which make hormones that help to control sugar level of blood stained pink, and cells need to make enzymes to digest food stained red. Now the embryonic stem cells can be differentiated and ground into human tissues and organs to replace diseased tissue and organs for treatment of the illnesses. This is criticized and controversial for ethical reasons. Several different tissues work together to form special functions to form an organ. Example: heart, kidney, pancreas, lungs, stomach, etc. Many organs are grouped together to form an organ system to carry out a major functions. Example: digestion is carried out by digestive system, which is composed of digestive organs. A group of systems make up a body organism. The hierarchy of a level of organization from simple to complex is cells, tissues, organs, systems, and body or organisms. Finally, cells are specialized to carry out their functions as a part of a tissue or organ. Their structures are modified and adapted according to their function. For example, muscle cells have many mitochondria to generate a lot of energy. Cells for gas exchange or diffusion have a large surface area. Cells that produce proteins have many ribosomes. Photosynthetic cells have many chloroplasts. Then it is possible to predict the functions of cell by looking the structures of specialized cells. So that specialized cells are cells that are adapted to carry out a particular bodily function. And the undifferentiated cells are cells that have not yet assumed their final functional characteristics. Embryonic stem cells are cells from the early embryo that have the potential to form almost any other types of cell. Differentiated cells are special cells which carry out specific functions. Example: human red blood cells are types of blood cells that carry oxygen around the body. Students, cell specialization is alternatively called cell differentiation. It is the process through which a cell tends to assume a specific bodily function. Specialized cells are cells which are adapted to carry out a particular bodily function. Then a single cell zygote is formed when a sperm cell fertilizes an egg cell. A zygote cell divides to produce a lot of undifferentiated cells. Then each undifferentiated cell is called embryonic stem cell. Embryonic stem cells are cells from the early embryo that have the potential to form any other type of cell. As the embryo develops, the cell becomes differentiated. For example, some cells differentiate to become red blood cells to carry oxygen around the body. Some other cells become nerve cells to carry out electrical impulses around our body. Different specialized cells performing the same function are grouped together to form a tissue, and different tissues performing different functions are grouped together to form an organ, and different organs performing different functions are grouped together to form a system, and different systems performing different functions are grouped to form an organism. Students, unspecialized animal cells all have the following structures and organelles: cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, and ribosomes. Each of these has a characteristic structure and carries out clear functions in the working of the cell. Remember, in multicellular organisms like human beings, the cells of the embryo differentiate to form specialized cells, which carry out particular functions of the body. And unspecialized plant cells all have the same basic structures and organs as animal cell. In addition, they have a cellulose, cell wall, and they may have a permanent vacuole. In the green parts of a plant, all the cells contain chloroplasts, which in turn contain chlorophyll. Each of these has a characteristic structure and carries out a clear function in the working of the cell. Now look at epithelial cells, which are one of the specialized cells. Epithelial cells are cells which cover the internal and external surface of our body. They are arranged in 18 sheets. and are unique in that they have varieties of function, which are protection, secretion, excretion, and absorption. Epithelial cells are found in an area where the aforementioned process takes place, which means protection areas, secretion areas, excretion, and absorption areas. There are three main morphologies of epithelial cells: squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. When you look at squamous epithelial cells, they are wider than their height. They are flat and scale-like cells. They found in an area where there is a simple diffusion. For example, they found on the wall of capillaries and on the wall of alveoli of lungs. This is the typical structure in which squamous epithelial cells look like, which is a flattened cells. The second one is cuboidal epithelial cells. They are cells whose height and width are approximately the same and are cube-shaped. Cuboidal epithelial cells are found in an area where absorptive, secretory, and excretory functions occur. For example, they are found on the wall of pancreas, which mean in secretory areas. Again, they are found on the wall of salivary glands and on the wall of tubules of kidneys. So this is the typical structures of cuboidal epithelium, which is a cube shaped. And the third morphologies of epithelial cell is a columnar. They are taller than their width, and also they are a column shaped because of their name, columnar epithelial cells. And they found an area where extremely high absorption function takes place. For example, they found on the wall of stomach and on the wall of small intestine. The maximum absorption of the food, metabolic end products or digestion processes takes place in those two body parts, stomach and the small intestine wall, due to the columnar epithelial cell structure known as microvilli. Microvilli is a ciliated structure. They are used to increase the efficiency of the diffusion by increasing the surface area of a cell where diffusion mainly taken place. This is a columnar of ciliated epithelium, which is also found on the uterus of a woman when the egg moves from the ovary to the oviduct for the process of fertilization. This is a ciliated columnar epithelium. Students, now we reached to the last part of our lesson. Before to end up the lesson, there is a classwork part. There are three main concepts which are depend on your lesson. Please do one by one. I wanted to give you some minutes, then we'll do it together. Hurry up. Students, I think you are satisfied with the question by pausing the video. Now let's answer the question. Question number 1 says, what's the difference between specialized and unspecialized cells? Question number 2, a specialized cells together form a blank. Question number 3, embryonic stem cells are unspecialized cells to form specialized cells. True or false? The answer for question number 1 is specialized cells are cells that are adapted to carry out a particular bodily function, whereas unspecialized cells did not. Question number 2, specialized cells together to form a tissue. And lastly, embryonic stem cells are unspecialized cells to form specialized cells. The answer is true. Students, now let's summarize the lesson. Generally, in this section, you have learned that cells specialized to carry out a particular function are grouped together to form a tissue, and the tissues grouped together to form an organ, and several different organs working together to form an organ system, and the organ systems working together make up the body of a complex multicellular organism. So there are many different special cells in the human body. They include epithelial cells, sperm cells, egg cells, nerve cells, and a muscle cell. In this lesson, we specifically discussed so far about epithelial cell. A close look at their specialization shows how they are adapted to their functions. So students, now we reached to the last portions of the lessons of homework part. Please write or copy on your exercise book, and when the class resumes, it will count. Question number 1, only one question. List out some of the main job of epithelial cells in the body and where they found. Dear all students, thank you for your careful, attentive listening. Until to meet the first lesson of this week, goodbye.